Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ralph Spears. Welcome to today's webinar. It is on which sector or industry is currently trending. Thank you for taking the time to join me, and I hope that you learned something from this. It's going to be a very short presentation today. This is the 15th of August 2017. I know that if you're going to watch this once it's up on YouTube, it obviously won't be current trending, but the principles are the same, and having a look at the different sectors will assist you in making decisions in the future when you play the investment challenge game. The disclaimer: none of this is advice. Please understand that this presentation is purely for the investment challenge game only. It is not for your own personal trading account or investment account. This is purely for those of you that are playing the investment challenge game. We're looking at it from that angle and saying, what kind of things to look out for. So an overview of the sectors and industries. To track a sector or an industry performance, we use what we call an index or indices. And basically, it's a basket of shares, and the performance is determined by the price movement of that whole basket of sector or industry of all the companies put together each and every day. So what we use is a sector classification for all the FTSE JSE index series. They are defined by what we call ICB, which is in Industry Classification Benchmark, and that is the system we use to classify the different sectors, industries, subsectors. And you'll see over here we've got how it's broken down. Okay, in the ICB classification, we've got the subsector, then we've got the sector, super sector, and industry. So you will see that the subsector, it's really the small different companies. For example, specifically under mining, you've got like gold mining or general mining or coal, but there's not too many companies in each of these groups. So to analyze it, it's far better to look at a bigger picture, and that's where I'm looking at from an industry point of view today, not from the sector or subsector. We're looking from an industry point of view, and that's how we're going to do it. So it's the first column. There you've got oil and gas, basic materials, industrials. On the next page, you've got consumer services, telecommunications, utilities, financials. And so these are the different industries that we have within the JSE. In fact, there's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them that are active. The oil and gas and utilities industry do not have any companies that qualify to be part of that specific industry. So they're not part of that. So the only 8 active ones is basic materials, industrials, consumer services, healthcare, consumer goods, telecommunication, financials, and technology. Now you will see a code under each of them, which is J510 or J520. And this is the code that you would need to use on the internet when you are looking up these different industries. If you're wanting to track the performance of them, you're going to have to go to different websites and use those codes. Those are the important codes that will help you to actually track how those different industries are doing. So if we were to go look at what is inside these different industries, you've got basic materials, which is J510. And this is all the different resource companies. And you can see a lot of these names that you know. If we move on to industrials, J520. And again, here's some of the companies that you can find in that industry. If we look at consumer goods, J530. British American Tobacco, for example, being the biggest one in this group here. Healthcare, J540. There's only a few healthcare companies here. Then you've got J550, Consumer Services. NASPAS being probably the biggest one in this group. We've got telecommunications, J560. Only a small amount of companies here. And then financials, J580. And this is all the financial companies that you've got. And lastly, technology, which is only made up of 2, J590. So that's how it's divided up on the JSE. Remember that this is not all the companies on the JSE. There are groupings there are companies that don't qualify to be part of this this different industry, so they won't necessarily form part of the actual measurement. Okay. Now, if we look at the performance, and this is what you wanted to see today, and this is the performance as of Friday last week, the 11th of August 2017. If we look 1 year back, which industry has actually best performed, and you'll find that consumer services has performed with 14%. You've got consumer goods 13%. You've got basic materials around 6%. And then there are others that you don't see there, but all these different lines you can actually follow. You've got financials, telecommunications, roughly is even. But then you've got healthcare, which has done negative 26%, and technology about minus 13%. That's in the past 1 year. So if you were, for example, in healthcare industry, the chances of you doing well in your portfolio, you know, that industry lost 26%. So it probably wasn't the best one to be following in the past 1 year. If you look at from the competition, the start of the competition, which was the 13th of March this year, and each year, remember, it starts on a different date, but this year it started on the 13th of March. Again, consumer services 15% return, basic materials 10%, consumer goods 7%, and so on. It went down, with the worst performer being technology of 17% negative. And again, healthcare came second last, which is negative 6%. If you look in the last 2 weeks, which ones were best performing, you've got, again, consumer goods 2.2%, basic materials 2%, and telecommunications 1.1%. Technology at the bottom, again, negative 3%. Now, what I've wanted to look at and said, you know what, let's look in the last 1 month. Okay, 2 weeks might be too short a period. 1 month, if you look in the last 1 month, which has been best performing? Basic materials 7%, consumer services 6%, financials 5%. Technology in the last 1 month is 14% negative. So if you've watched in the last couple of slides, you would have noticed that basic materials, consumer services on average have been coming in the top 3, somewhere around there. So if we were to go and see, okay, remember, this is what the basic material companies are, just as a reminder. And if we were to go and look at the performance of that specific industry, we can see which companies have been doing well. Now, they've got 3-letter codes, like I'm sure you're all well aware of the different companies. The 3-letter codes being the first one, LON, which is 35% return in the last 1 month, which is Longman. If you looked at the second one, NHM, that is Northern Platinum Limited, and it made a return of 25% in the last 1 month. Then you've got Sibanye Gold, which made just under 25%, and so on. If you go look at the other side, at the bottom, the blue lines that are going downwards, you will see more than 5% negative. You had ArcelorMittal, you had SAPI, with just under 5%, and so on that side. So you can see that basic materials had some great, strong winners in the last 1 month. They obviously also had 1 or 2 companies that performed badly, but overall, the percentage-wise in 1 month, that's been pretty impressive for the past 1 month. If you were to go look at the consumer services, which, remember, came in second spot in the last 1 month, and these are some of the companies that you remember. If you go and actually look at their performance, you've got in position number 1, you've got Truworths, you've got Mr. Price, around about 13-14%. You've got Woolworths, just under 10%. You've got Foschini's, just under 10%. You've got a whole host of them on that side. And then if you go look on the other side of the coin, the ones that perform negative, -7 or 8%, you've got Choppies and Avitech around there as well, and Louis. So those are the companies that were on the negative side. But overall, again, some of these companies performing more than 5% in the last 1 month, pretty impressive. So if you had to go look at the two best performing sectors or industries in the last month, you would have consumer services companies doing pretty well and the basic resource companies. And those are probably the ones that you would want to be holding. And not to say that in the last 1 month it's going to continue like that. You know, every day things do change. I have looked at, for example, basic materials today, and a lot of those companies are not performing well today. But overall, if you look at the trend that's been taking place, they're in the top three, and we don't know how long that will last, but currently somewhere around there. If you go look at the worst performing industry, and remember it's only two companies, but EOH -20%, and Data Tech around -6 or 7% in the last 1 month. So if you wanted to go and look at the different industries and analyze them, there are many websites you can go and look up. Google Finance, Fin24, MoneyWeb, ShareNet, ShareData. This picture on the right-hand side over here of the actual watch list of the different industries, J510 and so on, that is created by ShareData. You can also look in the profile stock exchange handbook between pages 15 and 30 roughly each time it comes out every quarter. But remember, that's a quarterly review and not a daily view of what's happening in the different industries, but it will help you in analyzing it. And of course, the business day, different newspapers will have some of these sectors or industries that they're actually showing you on a continuous basis. And then lastly, find us on social media. We've got Facebook, Twitter, we've got Instagram, and as well as we are now starting to load up some of our webinar videos, and you can go and find them on the YouTube page. If you go to YouTube, just type in JSE Challenge, and I'm sure you'll pick it up, the channel, and you'll be able to go and view some of those webinars. And then lastly, the contact details. Here's the contact details of the team, our email address, schools@JSE and university@JSE, and of course the website schools.jsc and university.jsc. That is my presentation for today.